Hi there, it's Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com, here with a Brawl brew, and of course, I have to go with Etali's Love, Etali's Life. I was going to do a full edited video of one of those good old Commander videos where nice little images pop up and I give a more concise overview of the deck tech, but we were running out of time before I got to go play some Popper here for Friday Night Magic, and I thought I might as well do my first Brawl brew. I'll do another one. The one after this I'm going to do is SRAM. So maybe we'll have a more edited, clean video for that video. However, Etali, of course, is the card that really piques my interest because it's one of my favorite Commander decks. And so, of course, I want to play, like, Neheb is my other standard Commander at the moment, like a Commander that is legal right now in Standard. But going back on Neheb, you can't really build a decent Neheb deck, in my opinion. There's just nothing that is worth it to ramp into, like no Eldrazi's or big spells in Standard at the moment, so I think the Neheb's not the right route to go. However, Etali seems to have enough things going for her in this particular format, as you have the ramp, you have the haste, and you have other people's decks you can still work off the top of. So if anyone's ever played an Etali deck before, Etali, the win conditions are usually, like, I like to build Etali with using my opponent's cards to win the game, and a lot of my finishers are actually legal right now in Standard, one of them being the Aetherflux Reservoir. So for all of you that do not know the Commander format of Brawl, you want to go read a very disappointing article that really hypes up something that you think it's going to be like something unique and new. Just go read this Join the Brawl. Basically, Join the Brawl is Standard Commander with 30 life total. That's it. There's no other. You can also use legendary Planeswalkers as your commander or a legendary creature, and it's really nothing to write home to mom about. It's just basically standard 60 card deck Commander, which I'm actually, at first I was a negative Nancy about this format. I was just saying why, because as someone on Twitter said, hey, that's just what EDH players want, is another, or that's what just players want, is another deck that rotates. So, of course, if you do build a deck out of Amonkhet or out of Kaladesh block, you don't really have a lot of shelf life for your Brawl deck before it does rotate. However, after thinking through more, I don't want to be one of those people that just tells people they can't enjoy the game by playing a very limited environment. I actually like formats with these really restrictive limitations. I think it makes you play with worse cards than you normally do, and I think the Commander is starting to have the similar problem that Modern has, which is the card 2 is just too extensive. And yes, too extensive does become a bit of a burden at times. I've noticed it with some of my decks like Animar and Noth of the Gilt Leaf, that very, very few cards that are printed out of new sets I really even care about putting in the deck, because it's pretty much, it's good to go. Like, there's not a lot of upgrades or anything I really desire for those type of stuff. So a new format that's just wide open as Wild Wild West is something that I definitely have rethought about and will be playing, and I will be reporting back to how well I actually do like the format. So let's just get into the deck tech. So we're going to go back over to good old Etali. Etali Primal Storm is a 6-mana legendary Elder Dinosaur. It says, whenever Etali Primal Storm attacks, exile the top card of each player's library. Then you may cast any number of non-land cards exiled this way without paying their mana costs. Etali tends to do better in the more players, the merrier. So if you're in a pot of 4, it's going to be weaker than if you're in a pot of 5 or a pot of 6 with Commander, which isn't unheard of in playgroups to get more than 4 people. So of course Etali right off the bat wants to be able to attack the turn it comes out. So we are going to use any sort of haste effects. I was actually quite disappointed. I thought we had one more artifact that gave haste, but apparently it was out of Eldritch Moon or Shadows, and so it rotated. I think there might have been one out of like Battle for Zendikar too that rotated as well. So the one that we do have is Strider Harness, which is a 3-mana equipment that gives +1/+1 haste with the equip cost of just 1. It's a very reasonable card to be running in this deck. We have the one of Bloodlust Inciter, which can give a creature haste, as well as the Otepec Huntmaster, which can give a dinosaur haste, and yes, Etali is a dinosaur. And then we have the Spontaneous Artist, which is a 3/3 that gives you an energy that then you can pay to give a creature haste. So all in all of these are going to do the job. The more restrictive one is Strider Harness, because then you'll have an extra mana to then attack with Etali. So lands is pretty straightforward. We're running a lot of artifacts in this deck, so Inventor's Fair. Field of Ruin, I really anticipate this format to be a lands matters format. So we have a lot of cards that flip into lands, like what is the vehicle that flips over and then just has massive card advantage. There is like Journey to Eternity. There is Search for Azcanta. There's a lot of them that I think are going to be very, very dominant in this type of format. And so Field of Ruin, I think, will be a good way to destroy that. I even thought about running like the Stone Rain type effects. There's 2 of them in the format, one that has cycling and one that's just demolish, and then the one that has cycling, but decided not to. I'll just have to wait and see what the meta shapes out to. And Aether Hub is just okay because we do have a sub-energy theme to this, and we'll get to that. So the next category after giving our cards haste is really about fixing, and really about digging deep. I had a Key to the City in this deck, but I decided to cut it because the creatures were really low. I didn't really care about giving Etali unblockable. Usually you can attack an open player, and that's fine with Etali, so you don't have to worry about it getting chump blocked. So if it ends up being a bigger format with creatures or cards that are something that can kill Etali, then absolutely we will probably need to put a Key to the City type card in the deck. But for right now, the looting type cards that I'm running is an Azor's Gateway, which the Azor's Gateway is a 2-mana draw card, then exile card from your hand. If you have 5 or more cards with different converted mana costs, you gain 5 life, untap it, and transform it. And then you can add X mana of any one color to mana pool. X is your life total. So kind of a cool card in this deck because we do have a very diverse variety of converted mana costs where this can be relevant to then tap for a lot of mana. However, this deck isn't very mana intensive to begin with. You're just trying to get up to Etali, and then usually you're okay. Tormenting Voice and Cathartic Reunion are also really good in this deck because they'll be able to get rid of the excess lands. We are going to run the 24 lands in this deck. I think that's probably right for a deck that wants to be hitting its land drops. And then we have the Pirate's Pillage, which is also draw 2 cards and create 2 colors tokens. And as additional cast, you have to discard a card. So this does both the mana ramping, which actually curves really well with Etali, as well as sets up your hand. So the other mana ramp in this particular deck, we have Chandra, Torch of Defiance, which curves perfectly with Etali and is going to be a pretty decent card. The problem with Chandra usually is going to paint a target, and we don't really have a good way to protect Chandra. However, it's still a very good slot in this particular deck. The Hazard's Monument might as well reduce the cost of the Etali, plus allow you to have that little bit of loot to basically set up your hands later on. We're going to go with a Manalith. I thought about there was is it called the Pillar of Origins? But we don't run any other dinosaurs, so I didn't think it was worthwhile to have any other mana ramp that just activated with our commander. But Manalith's fine. It's kind of a weaker rock, but it's legal in the format, as well as Cultivator's Caravan. We're probably never going to crew this, but it's still an option. And we have the Sunset Pyramid. Wait, this is part of the fixing. Whoops, wrong category with the Sunset Pyramid. It's a scry effect plus a draw effect. And we have the Pyramid of the Pantheon. If we can get enough brick counters on this, it then can activate for 3 mana of any color. We also have the Eraska's Relic, which early on it will mana ramp, and then later on we can sacrifice it to draw a card and gain 3 life. Not a bad card. So then we have kind of our card advantage set, other ramp through treasures. We have this treasure package of Treasure Map, which allows you to scry, and then when you get the 3 counters on it, it flips into a land that can sack treasures to draw cards. We're going to run the Wily Goblin, the Brazen Freebooter, and the Captain Lannery Storm in this particular deck, just to add some treasures that then can act as ramping. There's also a synergy we'll talk about later with a particular card. Then the Oracle's Vault seems like one of the better commander type cards in this format. Eventually, if you can get 3 counters on Oracle's Vault, you can start to do some crazy things. I thought about putting a Paradox Engine in this deck for some crazy Oracle Vault combo. If you ever played Oracle's Vault and Paradox Engine, extremely potent combo. Again, if I can end up establishing the Paradox Engine, because there also is some pretty decent combos with some other cards here with the Paradox Engine, maybe I'll throw it in. But for now, it was one of my last cuts to make this just a 60 card deck. So we have the next package is kind of our value, our payoffs is what I like to call it. So it's the Lightning Runner. Lightning Runner has double strike and haste, and whenever Lightning Runner attacks, you get 2 energy. Again, if we can get up to, I believe it's what, 10 energy, 2, 4, 6, 8, or 8 energy, you can get an extra attack. how the way I build Etali in the Commander format, the Eternal Commander format, is a lot of cards that give you extra attacks. That way you can just chain off Etali attacks in one turn. And so this is kind of the best we've got going for us. And the other one that we have is the Combat Celebrant that can give you an extra attack. So I'm going to use both of those. Neheb just seems like a pretty value-based card that beginning of your post-combat main phase, you add a mana to your mana pool for each life your opponent's lost. So if you end up going with Etali attacking and doing 6 damage to something, and they have a Neheb out too, that's 10 damage. A lot of times you can cast some of your bigger stuff. We do have some engines that do require a lot of mana to be dumped into things. The Mirage Mirror just seems like a perfect card for a multiplayer format. It's always going to be the best card on the battlefield at any given time. The Talani Summoner, it's a card that is going to get you to City's Blessing quite easily and is something that can give you some 1/1 elemental creature tokens once you have City Blessing just to kind of chump block. So I thought it's usually there will be a person open that you can get some value out of the Tilanali's Summoner. And Aetherflux Reservoir. This is a pretty good combo with Etali. So Etali is going to get 4 cards usually in a 4-pod off the top of the library. 1/3 of those, probably one of the players statistically is going to be a land, but usually end up casting 3 cards. And if you cast a card before that this turn too, that will affect with Aetherflux Reservoir. So the first one will be 1, then 2, and then you'll be 3. So a lot of times you can gain some significant amount of life. It's a little bit tougher than Commander to get up to 50 life when you start having a starting life total of 30. However, I think that Aetherflux Reservoir, it gives you that padding, and it can one-shot an opponent once it gets going with a couple of Etali attacks. I think it's a perfect card just to synergize. This I have it in my actual Etali Commander deck, so of course, if I'm going to be playing it in that, it's probably good enough for the deck. Sunbird's Invocation, just one of the best Commander cards that's been printed in Ixalan. And the Gonti's Aether Heart. This is our little bit of our energy type strategy, where when it enters the battlefield, another artifact, you get 2 energy, and eventually you can then pay the mana or energy 2, 4, 6, 8 energy to take an extra turn. So that can kind of be like an extra attack. You do have to exile it. There's no way to recur it. We're not running any recursion in our deck at the moment anyway. So yeah, I thought I put like a Scavenger Ground as far as the lands, but I guess did I cut the Scavenger Ground? Or is it further down? Yep, there's a Scavenger Grounds to actually get. I'm thinking like Scarab God or God Pharaoh's Gifts are going to be a little bit of a strategy. You know, Liliana is actually legal as a commander, which seems pretty potent for a mono black list. So keep that in mind. I think graveyards will be a bit of an issue. So anyway, my other payoff would be Planar Bridge. You can hit other people's rocks, I'm sure, off of the Etali, or this is a good little synergy with Neheb, that then you can start searching for particular permanents and just putting it onto the battlefield. So that is basically the gist of the deck as far as its game plan. The interacting with our opponents, this is the next category. I'm thinking the artifacts are going to be very, very important. So we're going to run By Force, Release the Gremlins, Abrade, and then for some creature removal, we're going to Harness Lightning because it has an energy theme to it. Sweltering Suns, we can cycle it or just do 3 damage. Hour of Devastation to clear boards, and the Star of Extinction just to make sure we have a panic button type card. So again, a few other cards that I did think about. The Paradox Engine. I thought about going into more of like a Panharmonicon, but there just wasn't enough cards that synergized with it. And all in all, though, I think it's going to be a pretty fun deck to play. You are really at the mercy of what your opponents are playing. That if they are playing stuff that goes big, with a card like Etali, you can hit some really, really incredible cards off of the top of people's libraries with Etali. So that's my deck tech. Again, the other ones that have really perked my interest would definitely be SRAM and Saheeli. So I like Saheeli as a value-based deck with a commander that, or a planeswalker you can get some value off of and don't even have to worry about killing Saheeli and then reusing it for even more value just with an artifact type deck. And SRAM just looks really good because there's tons of equipments. So again, I might do some more high production videos for that. Eventually, when I get my voice back without the stuffy nose, I think that'll be the perfect place for that. But I think that everyone should try to give Brawl a shot. I don't think, like, I've been calling for more formats to begin with. I like restrictive formats. Even if you played like a standard Pauper, I'd be all for it. Even standard Commander people have been talking about for a long time. And I think this is a good gateway drug into Commander. I think that eventually Commander is going to be very similar to some of these legacy and modern formats where when a new player gets in, yeah, they can get a new deck, and usually those decks are pretty competitive to begin with, but it might just be a little bit intimidating looking at the entire history of Magic the Gathering to try to build a commander. Whereas Standard's a little more focused. You're like, okay, I can start here, and then when this rotates, I can add 40 cards to this deck and then have it good. So anyway, yeah, that is my list. And yep, I hope you enjoyed it. And if you have any particular commander you want me to build around the Brawl format, let me know in the comment section below. This has been Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com. Thanks for watching.